Once a grifter, always a grifter. So Joe Biden, in a absolutely glaring attempt to try to buy votes, because it is what Democrats do best, is now going to lay out 300 billion, that's billion with a B, 300 billion in student loan debt forgiveness. I'm sorry, but if I don't get a decision on where that young person went to school and what he majored in, why should I have to pay their tuition? You know, my kids all went to college. I had some input as to where they went and what they were going to be doing, but I was also facilitating some of the funding that went into that, so I got to be part of the decision process. When they got to stages in their life where they no longer needed my assistance financially, I didn't really give them any assistance in the decision other than if they asked me my advice. That's kind of how responsibility works. So we are now going to pay off the student loan debt of people who went and got a BS degree in Aztec art appreciation, because that's exactly what it is, a complete BS. The fact that we have all of these people who have gotten all of these degrees in non financially sustaining fields of study is not our fault. It's not our problem. We won't give an 18-year-old a business loan to launch a business. That's considered a bad credit risk. So, an 18-year-old can't borrow $10,000 or $15,000 to launch a small business. We won't give a young person a loan to go to trade school. But we will give a young person, we will put them hundreds of thousands of dollars in hock on studying ancient languages which no longer exist. Then unless they're actually going to get hired by the university that gave them that worthless degree to continue perpetuating that ancient dead language to the next crop of incoming students, it's a worthless degree. You can't get a job. You'll end up as an Uber driver. And I understand that driving Uber probably isn't helping you pay off all of your student loans. I got that. But therein lies the problem. Liberals' solution to everything is just, well, throw money at it and that will fix it. No, that actually makes the problem worse. Do you know there was a time in our country, and it really wasn't that long ago, the 1950s, the 1960s, if you had the grades to get into Harvard, you could pay for Harvard yourself, even without a rich daddy, if you worked really hard all summer long at a summer job or two, and maybe you worked part-time while at Harvard, an after-class gig, working as a waiter at a restaurant or a waitress or whatever. You could work your way through Harvard. Once we came up with the guaranteed student loan, and once the universities heard that word guaranteed, see, then they could set the tuition at whatever price they wanted to, because they were guaranteed to get that money or the majority of that money right up front, courtesy of the United States government. So then all of a sudden now we had professors that could get guaranteed wage increases, and colleges which really didn't have to be as dependent on the alumni to build buildings and fund things and to go out and seek private donations and funding for all of their abstract, weird things that they love to do at these places. They now had a guaranteed revenue stream. And once you get hooked into that, well, the government never caps anything. No, nay, because that's considered a cut. It's funny, though, the word games that even conservative politicians play sometimes. George W. Bush was, going to cut government spending. No, he really wasn't cutting anything. He was just going to cap it. He ran on, if I get elected, we're not going to increase what was spent over last year into this year. We're going to cut spending. Now, what he said was, we're going to cap it. We're going to spend exactly what we spent last year this year. And then he even didn't do that. He couldn't keep that campaign promise. But Donald Trump was the problem. Donald Trump was the guy that's killing the Republican Party, according to the establishment Republicans, because he doesn't play the game. He's not part of the grift. And that is exactly what this is with Joe Obama Biden. This is a grift. And Joe Obama Biden is a grifter. That is what he does. He and Hunter fleeced Ukraine. He and Hunter got money from China. Joe is the big guy. He is a grifter. I mean, I thought the Clintons were grifters. I got to say this. The Clintons definitely took more money, I think, than Joe Biden. But everybody knows that their Clinton Foundation was a pay-to-play. It was like their little personal ATM. Everybody knows that. I will say this. Joe Obama has been able to cloud some of his tentacles into other countries financially, and the fact that they were able to buy access to the White House, buy access to American influence. Why do you think Joe Biden is so China-friendly? Why he has rolled back all of the Trump-era tariffs? Why he is allowing them, again, to steal our intellectual property? Why he is encouraging American businesses to set up manufacturing in China? Why he did nothing when President Trump at the beginning of the pandemic realized that 90% of our pharmaceuticals are being produced over in China, and when we have supply chain issues from China, we're in trouble. And he was working on bringing all of that back. He had already worked on bringing manufacturing back. He had hit them with tariffs. He was leveling the playing field. Joe Obama has undone all of that on purpose. Why? He owes the Chinese. They paid a lot of money for this help. And he depleted our strategic oil reserve, not to help Americans. No, nay. He gave it to China. Oh, and the fact that you're paying less at the gas pump now, and you will. You're gonna watch the price at the gas pump go down and down and down right up to Election Day. And then the day after, it all goes back to the Joe Biden recession normal, which will be $5-6 a gallon. This is the game they play. And you're being played on the student. They are counting on the youth to be so exuberantly excited, and they're counting on the Mar-a-Lago thing to have dirtied up Trump enough. But you know what? That's not working. There was an opinion piece on Faux News, formerly known as Fox News, today, talking about that the Dems know that the Mar-a-Lago thing is actually it's a boom for them because it puts Trump front and center again. You are noticing that Trump is racking up multiple victories, even last night in primaries in New York, Florida, etc., etc., etc. And for the bitch McConnells and the rhino Republicans who keep insinuating that these Trump-endorsed candidates cannot win in the general, we shall see. We shall see. And by the way, I would say right now that if they don't, that has more to do with what the establishment Republicans will do to destroy their ability to get elected than anything the Democrats have to do. Because right now, the one thing the Democrats and the establishment Republicans are walking in lockstep in is making sure that the status quo, that the protocols are followed. Never again is a guy like a Donald Trump ever to serve as president. No one that the people actually pick. You will get two choices. You will get two choices, and they will be pre-picked by the party officials. That's it. That's it. And so Joe Biden is hoping now to use this grift of giving away money. That was Lyndon Johnson's big thing. Give everybody a big handshake and give them a lot of money, and they'll vote for you every time. And that's what Democrats do. The thing is, it's your money. What about all the people that paid off their student loans? Hey, I get it. I'm a pastor. Believe it or not, I went to college. There are thousands of young people who go off to Christian and theological schools, many of whom are preparing for ministry. Now, there are Christian colleges, which are liberal arts, and by that I mean you can get degrees in anything there. And they aren't necessarily going into full-time Christian vocational ministry. I went to a college that wouldn't take student loans. You could be a veteran and use your veterans tuition benefit, but you couldn't take any. You had to work your way to go to college there. You know what? I'm so glad for that. And it was tough and it was hard, and I had a lot of sleepless nights, and there were a lot of weeks that I ate SpaghettiOs out of a can because that's what I could afford. And I can remember going through my car looking for pocket change just to be able to go to a vending machine and get a Coke and a bag of chips. And that was dinner that night. Because I'm working, I'm studying, and it was tough. And I can tell you this, though, when I left college, there was no student debt. And here's the thing, that college, because it was not tied into that system, we had a nice campus, we had decent teachers and professors. That can be done, but see, now that we have created this guaranteed system, and it wasn't all that long ago that these colleges were in this pandemic right up to their eyeballs and canceling classes and sending all of the students home. And you could learn from home in a Zoom class, and you know what didn't change? The tuition rate. They didn't lower tuition when they sent kids home. I know, I had one come home. We have a university not 5 miles from where I'm sitting right now. And they're building more buildings. They're always in a building program there. There's 18,000 students on that campus, and they're building more buildings. And I drive by and I laugh because I remember that when for a half a year, those buildings were empty. But we keep charging $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year for this degree that you can't even get a job with. And there are even some Christian colleges that unfortunately they do take the guaranteed student loan, and it's cost these pastors $30,000 a year to get their degree that I paid $5,000 a year for. Here's the thing, if we're going to pay off some student debts, if this is going to become like the new thing, we ought to get a say then in what these young people are going to be studying. You know, there ought to be some criteria like, hey, you have to actually be working toward a degree that actually has some type of, logical benefit to it. Like you're going to study engineering, not tofu finger painting. We're not going to give you a degree in watching television because you're going to be a media critic. So the grift is on. This is a way to just basically patronize young people and say, vote for Joe Biden. Here's the thing. On that level, I don't think that's going to work. Because by and large, these young people are not going to be voting. They certainly are not in the least bit motivated to vote for Joe Biden. Did you see some of the candidates that the squad picked went down in flames? They're trying to do everything they can to stem the red wave, including saying there'll be no red wave. And you're getting that even from Republicans, because the Republicans and the Democrats are now going to work together to stop the Trump train, to stop that momentum. And there's Joe Biden. He's lowering the gas prices. See, the economy's working. The Build Back Better's working. Look, your student loans are forgiven. And we just had how many hundreds of billions in the Recession Reduction Act? I want you to think about it this way. When you're in debt, the worst thing you can do is fund that debt by taking out more debt. Has it ever worked well when people have maxed out every credit card and they keep getting credit cards till finally the credit cards will not give them any more plastic? And then they've mortgaged their house, and then they've taken out loans, and then they go to payday loan. Does that ever end well for those people? Or do they end up filing bankruptcy? And yet, this is the plan that Obama Biden is we're in debt up to our eyeballs, so let's borrow our way out. That doesn't make sense at all in basic economics, and you can't run your household that way. But we're going to run our country that way. And thinking that this Recession Reduction Act, that by borrowing more money, creating more debt, and then pushing that money into the economy is going to help, is like Rosie O'Donnell eating a box of Twinkies saying she's losing weight. So the grift is on, per usual, and here we are, how many days removed from the Mar-a-Lago raid, and yet an Anthony Fauci gets to ride off into the sunset, and a Hunter Biden gets to vacation in the Caribbean, and Obama Biden gets to build a wall around his house in Delaware to keep out people, but we can't have a wall on our southern border, and none of them will ever have their doors kicked in by the FBI. Oh, and Nancy Botox Pelosi's husband only has to do a few hours in jail following a DUI, when you would lose your license immediately. This is the game, boys and girls. And the one shot we have at pushing it back and fixing it and changing it, you have got to be engaged and make sure that all of these Trumplicans get elected. Do not rely on the GOP. Do not rely on the establishment. And let's make sure that Obama Biden is a one-term only. Period.